Advisor to the Honorable Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Education, Tertiary Education, Science and Technology, Rectors of State Secondary Schools of Zone 2, teachers and students, dear colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am pleased to welcome you to the official launch of the Green Rangers Initiative and the prize-giving ceremony for the mascot competition. Plastic pollution is a pressing environmental issue that needs to be addressed urgently and collectively. An important way to mitigate harms caused by plastic pollution to our ecosystems, human health and wildlife is through education and awareness. At Quality Beverages Limited, we are convinced that the younger generations have the ability and capacity to contribute to significant changes to protect our environment and our planet. Our collaboration with the Ministry of Education on the Green Rangers program aims at reinforcing the existing initiatives to create awareness and educating students on ways to mitigate plastic pollution through the 3 R's principle, namely reduce, reuse, and recycle. The program, elaborated under the guidance of Mr. Bigan, Director of Zone 2, received the approval of the Ministry of Education in February 2024 and was launched on a pilot basis in 15 state secondary schools of Zone 2. It reached out to a total of 260 students. For more impactful results, we partnered with Precious Plastics Limited on this project. Ladies and gentlemen, you will have the opportunity to discover, after the official launch, the amazing work done by all the students during the past 6 months. For now, I invite you to view a video.
Au début, c'était un vraiment très grand challenge parce qu'on ne comprenait pas ce qu'on est venu visiter dans QBL, on voit des bouchons et on nous donne des bouchons, on se dit mais qu'est-ce qu'on va faire avec ces bouchons? Mais après, on a fait des travaux de discussion, j'ai discuté avec les élèves, on s'est documenté bien sûr, ça c'est très important, donc véritable de la documentation. Et après, on a fait donc un planning, comment nous allons procéder.
Après, il fait parce qu'il avait contribué pour protéger l'environnement et c'est pas une petite chose qui, l'apprendre de l'école, oui, mais si on a un projet comme ça, il va pas involver.
Donc, nous avons passé un message qui, comment dire, nous qui protège marine life, pas cette panne de déchets dans la mer qui peut cause harm pour panna. Il pas une fierté pour nous-mêmes que nous payons pour.
What I really loved about this project is that at the base level, we are doing something in Mauritius in order to contribute for the betterment of our Mother Nature. And I think this is primarily very important that the students become aware of recycling, about what is upcycling, about l'économie circulaire. D'accord, ça fait beaucoup de choses, même avec la visite au QBL.
Je crois qu'ils ont adoré le projet à QBL parce que je crois qu'ils ne savaient pas comment faire le recyclage du plastique en devenant liquide et puis reformer en solide, tout ça. Bon, ils travaillaient dans un groupe et l'important c'était de développer des compétences, des social skills et surtout respecter les opinions des autres.
Une expérience très géniale parce que c'est la première fois qu'il nous fait une capacité d'écouter pour faire des formations. On a fait des petits bols avec le feu de plastique. C'était une expérience fantastique. On a appris comment on peut changer la structure des bottle caps.
On commence à nettoyer, on commence à faire toutes les bonnes choses pour le projet. Par la même idée, parce qu'ils connaissent qui nous fait quelque chose, qui nous l'école, qui nous message pour nous protéger l'environnement.
On a appris beaucoup à travailler ensemble, la camaraderie, la jovialité. C'était vraiment une très bonne atmosphère.
Ça a été vraiment une très belle expérience et je dois dire un grand merci à QBL pour nous avoir donné cette chance. Ce projet a permis de motiver nos filles. Ce projet a permis de découvrir donc leurs talents cachés et l'année prochaine on va continuer ce projet magnifique.
I now invite on stage the Managing Director of Quality Beverages, Mr. Inigo de Prado, for his address.
Je mets des lunettes parce que je suis vieux. Mr. Dancingani, Senior Advisor of the Vice Prime Minister of Education, Tertiary Education, Service and Technology. Rectors of the state secondary schools of Zone 2, teachers, students, dear colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Well, first of all, let me start by saying that I am honored to be here with you today and to welcome to our first awards ceremony of the Green Rangers programs. This program is very dear to me, is very close to my heart. But after seeing the video that I've seen just now, I feel privileged because I've seen an energy, I've seen a passion around all of you of a subject that is extremely important, which is giving plastic a second life or actually upcycling, or the importance of recycling. So I am very proud to address you today, and I'm privileged to be here today with you, so thank you for that. Today is about you, is about celebrating you, is about your learnings, your success, what you have completed as the first batch of the Green Rangers program, a program to help to mitigate plastic pollution by fostering education and awareness among students of grade 8 and above. However, this program could not have been created without the collaboration of the Ministry of Education, Tertiary Education, Science and Technology, Dr. Dancingani, Mr. Bigam, and rest of representatives of the Ministry. I would like to thank you on behalf of Quality Beverages team for your support and helping to make this program a reality. I would also like to thank Precious Plastics. They have helped a lot to build a robust curriculum through workshops in schools and at the QBL Recycling Hub. Finally, thank you to all the local teachers. Of course, without you, nothing would have been possible, and rectors of all Green Rangers schools for your dedication and passion since the launch of the pilot program in March 2024. Now I will abandon the speech, and I will go. If I speak without a mic, you'll hear me, or I use a mic? I need help. So let me talk first about in QBL what we do as what is our responsibility behavior, what is our sustainability agenda. A lot of you will know there are 17 mandates, or there are 17 alleys, which you see here on our left, they are global. It's basically what global organizations, what global world is going to do to create a better world by 2030. It's an extremely aggressive agenda, but we all form part of it. What we did at QBL, we extracted what we can do, what we can address from, obviously, the position where we are. We are not a government, we're not a minister, we are just an organization. But obviously, what we do for sustainability is critical, and you will understand more later. So we pick 4 of them, which is what we do to impact. There is no impact to the global environment, to climate change. Second one is about what do we do as an organization to promote responsible consumption. Third, what can we do as an organization to basically create well-being, a better world? And finally, to mitigate or basically eradicate hunger around the world. So let me pause in 2013-12 statement. Our goal is basically to start with packaging. We produce probably over 40 million bottles of plastic in a year, which is a lot. And actually, the problem is not the volume, the problem is what happens to those plastic bottles. Through the Green Ranges programs, you've learned about the 3R that we talked about. Is basically reduce the amount of plastic that we use, the amount of plastic that we put in our bottles, and we work hard every year on basically doing so and removing plastic by lightweighting. The plastic that we produce is about what do we do with it. It can either be reused or it can either be recycled. Actually, you're a great example of how to basically reduce plastic. You've done a great job, and we'll see that later today. So basically, you've seen the importance of what can we do with plastic. And the final one, because we always talk about 3 R's, but I talk about 4 R's, is about reinvent. Is about what can we do or what can we invent to avoid using plastic as a mean into a bottle. So there are plant-based already generated bottles where they are not being done from petrol. So basically there are alternatives to plastic today that we need to continue to explore. So don't forget, the 4R is, the last one is as important as the other ones. Is you are young, basically think about the future. Maybe we have a future inventor in this room if they would invent the new way of packaging for a better tomorrow. Second bucket is about responsibility as the products that we produce. So basically, we need to be cautious that what we put into the market is actually not going to create any harm. And we need to make sure that basically we are respectful to that. We're working hard in reducing the amount of sugar on our beverages, and most importantly, making sure that we have a broad portfolio. When you want to reach out to a carbonated soft drink, it's there. But when you need a healthy hydration, we have water. So all the options are there. It's up to the consumer to understand the options are there and the importance of their choice. Third one is about water. Think about it. If I produce 40 million bottles of water and Pepsi and other soft drinks that we produce, that water needs to be extracted from the environment and actually put through a manufacturing process. Manufacturing process usually will waste water. So the 40 million liters of products that I produce, probably 80 million liters of water are needed. If I don't reduce this amount of water, basically what am I doing? I'm pumping actually a natural resource and I'm wasting it. Criticality for our organization, for QBL, is to make sure that that water ratio that I talk about is actually being reduced and used responsibly. Last one, GAG. If I ask a question I'm used to, I ask a question to the crowd, nobody will answer me. What is GAG? Green Rangers, what is GAG? Greenhouse gas. What is a greenhouse gas? Everybody talks about greenhouse gases. So what this is basically that gases that will come from the planet Earth into the atmosphere. Those gases, they will generate a little bit of protection that basically keeps the planet warm. So far it sounds like, so what's the problem with greenhouse gases emission everybody talks about? Because if it keeps the planet warm, it's fine. Because think about it, if we would not have this gas emission, it would be too cold to live on planet Earth. Those gases are actually coming from two sources, which are natural sources. Actually, trees, forests, they do have CO2 emissions as well. That help us to keep the planet warm. But humans, we all also generate CO2 through the actions that we do. Most of those CO2 emissions are coming from transport. So when we take a car, it's going to generate emissions. The moment these emissions become too big, what's going to happen? They are being bumped into the atmosphere, and it's going to continue to warm the planet. When you warm the planet, what do you get? You get global warming, extreme weather conditions, very hot, very cold. You see that? Sea level rises.
You see that? The beaches actually in Mauritius are actually becoming smaller because the sea level is rising. You're getting acidification of the ocean. What does it mean? That by becoming more acid, the fauna, the fish that live in that ocean basically will not be able to survive or will need to adapt. And a lot of the species that will live in the world will not be able to survive because they will not be able to adapt. So what does it mean? That if we continue to pump GHG emissions into the atmosphere, what we're doing is we're warming up too much. So as a responsible organization, I have no other option than to basically reduce that. How do I reduce that? Working with energy that is green energy from the sun. By 2026, all the energy that QBL will be using will be from the sun. We will not be using electricity that actually generates CO2 emissions. And what we do is we need to also source responsibly. Because think about it. If I put palm oil in the margarines that I produce, and this palm oil is actually eradicating the forests of Malaysia, it's not sourced responsibly. I eradicating a whole bunch of trees around the world. Basically, what I'm going to do is actually generate even worse CO2 situation for the environment and even worse global warming issues. Which means that it's not only what I do, it's how I source the materials as an organization, the raw materials that I put into my manufacturing process. And we cannot stop there. Actually, an organization that is responsible needs to give back. Obviously, we work for the shareholders, we work to generate profits as organizations, but we also work to make sure that we are a part of the solution to a better world. What we do for the communities in Mauritius is actually an example of what I'm trying to say. So how many of you know how to swim in this room? Nobody? 1, 2, 3. And the ones who don't have their hand raised means that you are not listening to me, you're already bored. So how many know how to swim here? I have a problem if there's not a lot more people here, because then we're not doing a good job into doing this. So, our job as an organization is to basically ensure that all of you learn how to swim, because you live in a country that is surrounded by water. So there is no other way, otherwise than taking a plane, that to learn how to swim. Critical. And the other one is to basically eradicate hunger. What can we do for that perspective? Is actually donate through organizations that are not for profit, that basically work basically on an altruistic form to basically create a better world. So we are with them to donating food to make sure that the most in need are deprived from a basic thing, which is food. This is the real picture. It is, how many of you would like to see your rivers, your oceans looking like this? Probably nobody of you. So this is not up to me, up to QBL, it's up to actually everybody in this room to understand what is the importance of the actions that we do to make sure that we don't see things like that. We've learned from COVID, we were all home. We were not polluting, we were not driving, we were not generating those CO2 emissions. The planet actually started to restore itself. So it's clear that when we do the right things, the planet will basically go back to what it was. Now to you. 274 students went through the program, and you've learned about plastic pollution and the impact that it can have. And actually you saw the photo. So this is what the critical part of this program is about. You discover the life cycle of plastic bottles. From the moment they are a little piece of preform like this until the bottle is actually being produced, and how we are ending up recycling those bottles. And most importantly, these are just little examples of actually an amazing work that you've done. Actually, I think the creativity in this room is just incredible. So actually, excellent job from that perspective. You gave plastic a second life. What did you do? You basically remove that plastic from going into the ocean into creating something very nice, something that can be used, that can be further used. You also sensitize your peers, creating teams around the schools to understand the importance of properly disposing those plastics. And you show that basically anybody can do this. It's not up to somebody that is old, it's not to your parents, it's not up to it's actually to absolutely everybody in this entire planet, everybody in Mauritius. It doesn't matter what age, what education they have, we all can be a part of the solution. So as you will be receiving your certificates today, I would encourage you to think about what you've learned today. The importance of education, understanding these things, and the importance of awareness. But it doesn't stop there, because I can go to school, I can learn, but then what do I do with it? So that part of what you do with it is probably the most important one. It's like you need to become ambassadors of the things you believe in. If you believe this is the right thing to do, you need to continue to push forward your ideas and be drivers of change. So as I begin to close now, I would like to congratulate all of you for going through this program and to actually finalizing the program and being successful about it. So thank you for being there and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Inigo, for these inspiring words. Now I would like to welcome on stage Mr. Dan Singhani, Senior Advisor to the Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Education, Tertiary Education, Science and Technology.
Director of QBL and the senior staff accompanying you, rectors, educators, students, of course, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Good morning to all of you, and first and foremost, the sincere regrets of the Honourable VPM for not being able to make it this morning, rather, because of other commitments. So she asked me to step in, and I think it's a privilege for me to be with you today. Thank you for that. I was just having a nice conversation with Managing Director about the need to market oneself, whatever you have to do. And then he came back to me with a vengeance with this presentation. I mean, I think it says it all, doesn't it? It says it all in the sense that it becomes incumbent upon every one of us to try to take up that responsibility of making the earth once again, our environment, a much cleaner place than it has come to be. He was taking precisely that example that has always been striking during the COVID. Suddenly, people started realizing that life could be different from what it is now, when we do not have to be exposing ourselves of the gases that we are emitting, for example. It doesn't have to be the case. Lessons that have to be learned, plenty of lessons that have to be learned. But be that as it may, let me come to a few things that I thought would be interesting for you to kind of mull over, to think through, to ponder on. We all know that there are major risks that are associated with the use of plastics. I will not go into that because I think you've done a lot of learning, a lot of reading, a lot of research about the whole process. So I don't really need to go into that. But it's important to realize that in our own country, we've got a major problem that relates to the landfill waste that we have. It's an important issue that we have to consider because land is scarce and we are already facing a problem of huge amounts of waste, domestic and otherwise, that we have to be able to take care of. And we cannot afford right now to take care of because we don't have the space for that. It's also true. I mean, if you go to places, sometimes you see those publicity spots, those banners that are there demonstrating marine life, for example, being caught in a lot of plastics and so on, to their own detriment. It goes without saying. So when you consider all of these, and there are so many more ills that one can talk about that can be gotten rid of the moment we decide to do something about it, whether we go through the 3R or 4R principles or not. But the point is, we need to be doing something about it. And I always, when I talk about the environment to people, two major proverbs come to my mind. They are African in nature, and like all African proverbs, if you're interested in reading or learning about them, you will find out most of the time they carry an amount of wisdom which is extraordinary, absolutely out of the world. Look, listen to this one. When you see a palm tree, the palm tree has seen you. Now, if you kind of try to get the cobwebs out of this and understand what exactly is being said, we are talking about what's been typically that linkage between human beings and nature. The sense of being aware. I'm aware of the palm tree has always been aware of me. So that kind of nexus that we have, that kind of linkage, that kind of connection that we have is something that we need to prize. Now this is one. The second proverb, very interesting one. Being in the forest and failing to see the trees is a curse. The issue of awareness, raising awareness and showing that everybody, you cannot enter a forest and not see the trees. It's a curse. Something has gone wrong somewhere. And who can do a lot to mitigate the whole process, the issues, the difficulties that are seemingly insurmountable, but which in fact are not. It's the young people like you. At the end of the day, as we tend to say, we have to leave the world, but we have to leave you to be in charge of the world, that you will have to bequeath to give to your generations to come. From that perspective, my young friends, when you look at the whole thing, if you look at the world around you, recent history has been made by millions of young people coming to be activists for the environment. Greta Thunberg, for instance, illustratively, we all know that. We also have in Africa, for example, Vanessa Nekate, a Ugandan lady who has, for example, a major association that she's leading, and she has literally encouraged millions of young Africans to join her in the battle. When you look at all of these, you do realize, and let me pause here to say one thing which matters a lot to me. Because I mean, in French we use an expression, le trop nuit. When you go into overkill, as we say in English, you're doing a disservice to a cause. What is the overkill? Basically, it is this. There are a couple of interesting words that have been coined. One is slackovists. Those, the combination of two words, slack and activists. The slackovists. Today, we are talking about the social media being utilized right, left, and center in such a manner as to indicate that there is a unanimous fervor about something, that we want to make things happen. But there are people who simply sit down, their commitment is restricted to the idea of just going on the social media saying, yes, it's a cause we fight for. You will never see them out there fighting for it. They are not the genuine activists. They are armchair activists. People who sit down, give the impression that they can really that they care and so on, but the caring is purely at the level of the written form, but not active engagement, which is necessary. You also have people who are called performative activists. Why performative? Because from a terrible perspective, they want to do things because they want to be seen as doing. I've been a teacher of English language long in another life, if you want to. And one of the definitions that I appreciated enormously was the one that was related to a conceited person. Vous savez, une personne qui pense beaucoup d'elle-même, d'accord, who is extremely conceited. And that definition was given in this form. It's like a person who joins the Navy, not to see the world, but to let the world see him. If you go to the depths of it all, such persons, such activists do that. Many, I'm sorry to put it this way, having lived a long life in that, I've seen a lot of such persons around me. People who do things not because there's a genuine concern about it, but because it's the thing to do. And I want people to see that I'm doing that. It's about time that we come out of that kind of a cocoon. It doesn't work. Genuinely. So the choice is yours, my young friends. Whether you really want to be, what's that term again? Eco-warriors. Whether you want to be advocates of sustainability or not. The managing director was referring to the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 ones that he's been talking about. We are only achieving 17% of those goals today. And l'échéance, ça arrive in a few years from now, 6 years from now. What we haven't been able to do for so long, you imagine, you believe, you honestly think that we can attain those in the next 6 years that are remaining? Forget it, it won't happen. But at least we can make a start somewhere. That's the most important thing. And I'm extremely pleased, genuinely, that you've got this kind of hands-on project-based approach. What happens most of the time is learning tends to go over the head. And especially if you've got a bald head like mine, you will certainly forget about everything else. But when you're doing it, if you're learning by doing, it's the best form of learning that you can possibly have. So let me end on that note. I loved the call for action that came at the tail end of the MD's presentation. That's a genuine call of action. And I think it behoves you all to kind of take those words on board. Nelson Mandela, what did they say? Be the change. You know what he said about it. I won't go into that one. It's archetypal, and at the same time, we've been using it so often. But what is important is that you have to give yourselves a call for action. Be the ambassadors for your own peers, and make sure that kids who are coming after you, the younger ones, let them also be part and parcel of this whole enterprise. And I trust educators, and especially rectors who are here, to really sustain the project and make sure that it gets to be disseminated, spread across not simply one particular educational zone, but all the schools across the country. I understand it's been a pilot program, but I also incidentally love the word ranges. If you go to the etymological, the different meaning of the word ranges, you will see the category, the type of work that the rangers did at one time. Things have changed a bit now in Canada, but they're still very much active. Enjoy whatever you are doing, my friends. Thank you, educators. Thank you, rectors, for really making that possible, for making such things possible. God bless you all, and keep the good work going as practicing activists. Thank you so very much. God bless you.
I just request.